Hello, boys and girls. Third grade. This is one of my favorite projects. It's a little tricky. It's one of those projects where I'd like for you to follow me step by step and create something awesome. Back in the day, I used to teach this to fourth grade, but since now they have gone to an intermediate school, I've tried it with my third grade. And in the past, my third grade students really like this. And so far, the students I have taught in class this year have really done a good job. So my thing of it is, I don't want to tell you what you're drawing until about halfway through, and then you can probably figure it out. But I'd like for you to just enjoy it, take your time. If you need to stop and pause the video, please do so, because there's a lot of little steps involved, and I'm going to go through step by step and just try to follow along with me as best you can. And in the back of your mind, the only thing that I'm trying to teach you is we're learning about lines, and the three lines that are the hardest to remember is, I'm using my ruler as an example, horizontal lines that are flat, vertical lines that go straight up and down, and diagonal. Those are the three that are the hardest to remember for some reason. Horizontals, verticals, and diagonal. So that's all I'm teaching you. And I just wanted to practice using those three lines. Now, I'm using a pencil. It's a drawing pencil. It has no erasers. None of my pencils usually have erasers. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to make a line, and I will tell you if you need to make it light. If I say make a light line, that means just barely touch the paper, and if you can see it, that's good, but we don't want to make it really dark. Anytime I say make a light line, the light line is most likely we're going to go back and erase it, or at least parts of it. If the line is going to be dark, I said please make a dark line. That means you will not erase it. So if you're ready, we're going to get started. The only thing you need is the sheet of paper, a pencil. You do need one with an eraser. I have an eraser sort of handy nearby, and a ruler. Please use the ruler. Use the ruler to draw straight lines. Keep it in mind, if you're right-handed, always draw on the right side of the ruler. And use your left hand, and I make the letter L so I can hold, as wide as I can to hold it very steady. Make sure your fingers don't accidentally get in the way as you're trying to draw. And if I spread it out and I press down, hopefully it won't slip and slide on me. Again, I'm not so much interested in what your picture looks like as I am for you to practice using and drawing horizontal, vertical, and diagonal lines. All right, here we go. You have your paper. Your paper is horizontal. It's flat. And I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to put it right in the center of my paper, or pretty close. And it's horizontal, and I can always tell because I can see if it's lined up here as if it's lined up at the top and the bottom of the paper. That is diagonal. It's crooked, so I have to make sure it's straight compared to the top and the bottom. Now I'm going to scoot down just a little bit. I don't want it directly in the center, so I'm scooting it down just a little, and I'm going to draw a horizontal line very lightly all the way across. Okay, so there's your horizontal line that goes all the way across, and I drew it light in case I have to erase it, but I had to draw it dark enough so that the camera can actually pick up on that. Now, in the center of this line, I need you to make a dot right on that line. Now, I don't make that dot really huge. I need to make it big enough for all of us to see. But again, I don't want to make it ginormous. All right, next step is we have horizontal. Now we're going to draw diagonal lines. And I always call this playing a dot to corner game. So I'm going to use my ruler and draw a straight line from this dot to the bottom corner. So again, use your ruler. And another little secret is I always put the pencil down and touch the dot, and then push my ruler up until it touches it, and then I line up this end with the corner, and then I draw a straight line. Now I'm going to give you another little hint. Anything below the horizontal line, we will not erase. So anything from here down, we will never ever erase. So I can make that as dark as I want. But it's very important to see that this line, this diagonal, comes from the center dot down to the bottom corner. Now, if you miss this corner, not a big deal. But it is very important that it comes out of that dot. So now we're going to do what we do at the bottom. We're also going to do at the top. So I'm going to connect this dot to the upper right-hand corner. So I'm going to line up my ruler. This line I'm drawing sort of lightly because I may want to erase part of this. Not all of it, just part of it. So I'm sort of pressing down sort of medium hard, medium light. What I do on the right side, I'm also going to do on the left side. So I'm going to play connect dot to corner. So I'm lining up my dot. This side, the other end I'm lining up with the corner, and then I draw a diagonal line to the corner. And I have one left. I have from the dot to the bottom left-hand corner. So I put my pencil on the dot. I slide the ruler up until it bumps it. And then I line up the bottom. And then this line can be dark because it's below the horizon line, the horizontal line. So I can make that as dark as I want. So far, we've drawn horizontal and we've drawn diagonals. Now, depending on where you put this dot and depending where you put your horizontal, this is going to sort of make an X, but it might look like a weird X. And it's okay that if your X and your drawing looks a little different than my drawing. And again, it just really depends on where you place everything. So now what we're going to do is we've drawn horizontals, we've drawn diagonals, but we have not drawn any vertical lines. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw 1, 2, 3, 4 vertical lines, but always use your ruler. Now, vertical line number 1, I'm putting it close to the dot, but I'm right-handed, so I'm going to draw on the right side. So I'm going to come over as close to the dot, but it's not touching the dot. And this line can be really dark as long as you stay in between the two diagonals. If I went all the way from top to bottom, I'd have to go back and erase. I'd have to go back and erase anything above that diagonal and everything below that diagonal. Now I'm going to just put a teeny tiny number 1 above vertical line number 1. Okay, vertical line number 2. I got to scoot over. I don't want it too close to number 1. And so I'm scooting over. It's a vertical line, so I'm making sure I'm straight. And it could be dark. It connects the two diagonals. And I'm going to put a teeny tiny number 2. Now, number 2 does not like to be left alone. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put vertical line number 3 pretty close to number 2. So I'm going to put my pencil where I want that line to be. I line it up. I double check to make sure I'm straight. And this could be dark. And I'm only going in between the two diagonals. That's vertical line number 3. Next is vertical line number 4. Now vertical line number 4 does not like to be around other lines. And so it likes to be all by itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide my ruler. Now it's touching the edge of the paper. And this is going to be really awkward for me. I'm going to draw on the other side. Or I could just scoot over and leave that gap and draw vertical line number 4. Again, it's only between the two diagonals. And I'm going to put a little teeny tiny number 4. What we do on the right, we're going to do on the left. Now, since we did this together, I always go a little faster on the other side because it's the repeating the steps we do here. We're going to repeat them on this side. But I'll talk you through it. If I go too fast, pause, stop the video, and then catch up, and then you play it again. That's sort of the fun thing about doing these YouTube videos and art projects. You can always stop, rewind, or skip forward if you've already got that step completed. All right, ready? We're going to make vertical line number 1 on this side. So I'm just sort of, I don't want to be too close to the dot, and it's okay if they're different distances. Vertical lines could be dark, and I'll put a teeny tiny one there. I scoot over because I don't want number 2 to be that close to 1, and I will draw a straight line, vertical, and it can be dark. Vertical line number 2 does not like to be left alone, so I'm going to put vertical line number 3 really close by, just to keep it company. And it can be dark, and I'll put a teeny tiny 3. Then we go to vertical line number 4. I'm putting the edge of the ruler lining up with the edge of the paper, and then I'm going to connect the 2 diagonals with a dark vertical line, and that's vertical line number 4. Okay? Now, we are going to do some erasing. So if you watch me first and see what I erase, then you can stop the video or pause it, and then you do your erasing and then continue. So what we're going to do is we never, ever, ever erase that dot. We will never, ever erase anything below the horizontal line. Now, what the tricky part is, we're going to erase most of that horizontal line. So from the point to number 1, we keep the horizontal. But from 1 all the way out to the edge, we erase it. So I'm going to turn my paper so it's easier for me to erase. And I'm going to erase from number 1, the horizontal that is, all the way out to the edge. And I turn it. And if you notice, I accidentally erased a little bit of my verticals. And so I can always go back and touch those up. What we do on the right side, we're going to do on the left side. So from vertical line to number 1, we keep. Vertical line to number 1 on this side, we keep. But from 1 to the end, we erase it. So I'm going to turn my paper so it's a little easier for me. And I'm going to erase the horizontal line. If you accidentally erase a little bit of your verticals, not a big deal. We can go back and we can connect those. Okay. So far, we've done this pretty quick, and we're right where we want to be. Now what we're going to do is we're going to be making some really, really, really short lines, but they're very, very, very important. So what I'm going to do is I'm looking at vertical line number 2, so that's 1. Here's 2. I'm driving my car. If the end of my pencil is a car, I'm going to go all the way up, and I'm going to stop at number 2. Where 2 and the diagonal meet is an intersection. Now, we can't get out onto the freeway, so in our little car, in our Jeep, we're going to take a road that's not on our map, but it has to be horizontal. So right there at an intersection, I'm going to make a horizontal line that connects 2 to 3. And it can be very, very dark because that's a very tiny line, and we will not erase it. What we do at the top, we're also going to do at the bottom. And so I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom. And connect 2 to 3 and use a horizontal line to do that. Next, number 4 is getting very jealous, And it's going to want the same thing that we gave to number 2. So we're going to go up here to the top where 4 in the diagonal meet, and we're going to draw a horizontal line that goes all the way across, and it goes right off the edge of the page. What we do at the top, we also do at the bottom. So I'm going to make a connection right here at that intersection that goes horizontal all the way across. Now, if you notice carefully, what we've done is we made 2 rectangles. And so I'm going to, if I sort of shade in, if I hold my pencil this way, shading takes forever and it's really, really dark. If I hold my pencil on the end where the eraser is, and I let the weight of the pencil sort of shade, I get a lighter value. And what we're doing is we're only coloring in or shading in the rectangles that you created between 2 and 3 and number 4. So we're shading these 2 little rectangles in. Now number 4 is a really large rectangle, but if you see that I'm sort of shading quickly, well, I'm just very lightly, like I said, using the weight of the pencil to shade in the rectangle. It doesn't take that long. And I'm just sort of letting the side of the pencil do all of the work. And that also sort of helps with how fast I go. All right. Now, what we do on the right, we're also going to do on the left. So what we're going to do is we're going to make the little lines, they're horizontal, and then we can go back and shade. So if I go to number 2, and again, if I go too fast, you can always stop or pause the video. Vertical line number 2, where 2 meets the diagonal, I need to make a horizontal line that goes across and touches 3. Gotta make sure I'm horizontal. It can be dark because we will not erase that. What we do at the top, we also do at the bottom. Right here at the intersection of number 2 and the diagonal, we're going to make a horizontal line that goes across. And you made another rectangle. In a few seconds, we're going to shade it in just like we did here. What we do at number 2, we also need to do at number 4. So up at the top where 4 meets the diagonal, we're going to make a horizontal all the way to the edge. And then what we do at the top, we also do at the bottom. So connecting 4 to the diagonal, and go horizontal all the way across, and we should have made another rectangle. So I'm going to shade these 2 in, the 2 rectangles, just like we shaded in between 2 and 3 and 4 in the edge. Again, I hold the edge of the pencil. I'm trying to keep my hand off the paper because if not, it's going to smear and smudge, which is okay because I love pencil drawings that have smudges and smears because to me it sort of shows the history of the drawing. So I'm going to again use the edge of my side of my pencil, and I'm trying my best to stay in the lines, and I'm shading in the rectangle that goes from 4, vertical line 4, all the way out to the edge. So I'm coming all the way up to the top and filling that in. I can always go back and touch that up and make it better. I'm just trying to get it shaded in so we can go to the next step. Now you may need more time to shade. Again, you can pause the video, catch up, and then you can continue playing. All right. Now, as we're all caught up in shading, now I'd like for us to erase some lines. Remember how I said we're going to erase some of the diagonal? Well, here we go. We never ever erase the dot. We never erase the horizontal line, and we don't erase anything on the bottom. But from this dot to number 1, we're going to erase it. So I'm going to use my eraser and erase the diagonal that goes from the dot up to number 1. Okay, erase that. Get that out of the way. What we do on the right, we also do on the left. So this is easier if we go back and forth. So from the dot up to 1, we erase. And it's okay to erase the numbers now. All right, I think that's all gone. Now I'm going to write, now this line is very, very tiny, but I think it's important for us to see what we're drawing if you erase these as we go. If you look at number 2 and number 3 vertical lines, there's a teeny tiny triangle. We want to erase the top of that triangle. And up here at number 4, because whatever 2 gets, we also have to do it to number 4, is we're going to erase that top of the triangle, that diagonal line. We don't need that anymore. So I can erase my numbers. There goes number 2, there goes number 3. I'm erasing the top of that triangle. And we also have to do that to number 4. I don't want number 4 to get jealous. And what we do on the right, we're also going to do on the left. So the little 2, the diagonal right before the, in between 2 and 3, and the numbers, we can get rid of the numbers, and number 4, and all the way up to the corner. Now again, if your drawing is a little different than mine, that's quite all right. Because again, I'm not so worried about what yours looks like as we are learning using horizontal, vertical, and diagonals. Because so far, that's all we've drawn. But at this point, I'd sort of like to give you a hint of what we are actually drawing. What we've done so far is we have drawn what we call forms. We have drawn 3-dimensional cubes. This will be cube 1, this could be cube 2, this could be cube 3, cube 4. The horizon line is where we get the word horizontal. This is where the sky, up at the top, meets the land. So right there at that line, that's where the land starts, and all of this above it is sky. And so it looks like we have these nice diagonal. This could actually be a road. So if these are 3-dimensional cubes, what if we go one step further and said, this is downtown Paducah, and these are actually buildings. So we just can't just walk on the road. People walk on sidewalks that's right beside the road. So what I'd like to do next is show you how to create sidewalks. And this is one of my very favorite parts of this whole drawing. How can we make sidewalks? Well, that dot, I'm going to stop calling it a dot and give it its true name. We call this the vanishing point. The vanishing point is where everything goes to disappear. So the further back into space we go, closer to that dot is where things go over the curvature of the earth and we can't see it anymore. So for example, how far can our eyes see? If you go outside at night and you look up at the sky and you see the moon and you see the stars, and then you think about how far the moon and the stars actually are. That is a great, great distance. Now, if we think about the people that live on the other side of our planet, say China. Now, China is a lot closer to us than traveling to the moon or to some of those distant stars we see in the sky. So why can't we see the people in China from our backyard or porches? Well, the earth is round. We see, when we look out, we see things in sort of straight lines. That's a straight distance between our eye and the moon or stars above. But since China is on the other side of the earth, which is round, what happens is when we look out, the curvature of the earth creates what we call the horizontal line. And as it curves, things look like they get smaller and smaller as we go further back into space, which creates that vanishing point. What we're doing is drawing something called one-point perspective. And so the sidewalks that we're getting ready to make are all going to come from that vanishing point. So I'm going to use my ruler, put it on the vanishing point, and I'm taking the ruler and I say, all right, how wide do I want my sidewalks? This is way too wide for a sidewalk. This is way too skinny for a sidewalk. So I'm just sort of guessing and say, you know what? That looks like a good size. So I'm putting my pencil on the vanishing point, and this line could be dark because we're below the horizontal line, the horizon line, so we can always make that dark. We want to erase it. This is the top of the sidewalk. We need to make the curb. So I'm going to put my pencil on the dot, the vanishing point, and the curb is going to be really, really skinny. So you can see how close I am to the top of the sidewalk. And when I make that line, that actually makes the curb. So what I'm going to do to make it look more three-dimensional is I'm going to shade this side of the curb. So I'm going to lightly hold the end of my pencil and I'm going to shade the edge of that curb. It don't have to be dark. I just need it to be like a different value than white. What we do on the right, we also do on the left. Very symmetrical. So again, I'm going to put my pencil on the vanishing point. I judge about how wide I want the sidewalks to be. And then I draw a dark diagonal line. And then I'm going to scoot over just a little, not much, just to make this the curb. That could also be dark. And then I'm going to sort of shade it, holding the end of my pencil. I'm going to give it a little value. And there we go. Now, that looks pretty cool, but what we're going to do now is extra cool. What we're going to put in is the sidewalk cracks. So the sidewalk cracks, a lot of my students think that the sidewalk cracks are diagonal. So if you make the sidewalk cracks diagonal, it's going to make it look like the sidewalk is on a tilt or a ramp, and everybody's going to be wanting to walk off into traffic, which is dangerous. And this will be our road. So what we need to do is we need to make the sidewalk cracks horizontal. They have to be flat. They have to be flat. So I'm only going to draw on the top part, the white part, not the shaded part. And so I'm going to do both sides at the same time. So I'm going to draw, and it can be dark. Unless I mess up, I don't have to erase it. And when I move, you can sort of see what I did. So I drew those two lines. Next, now it gets tricky because we need to make more of these. And the higher up you go, and I'm sorry, my hand's in the way. I'm trying to figure out the best way to do it. There we go. That might be a little easier. The higher up we go on the page, the closer you get to the vanishing point, the closer the sidewalk cracks get. And another little trick called atmospheric perspective, they also gets the lines will get a little lighter and a little lighter as we go up a little higher. So again, I'm trying to do these little lines. The sidewalk cracks get closer and closer together the closer we get to that vanishing point, because they're going to go over the curvature of the earth and disappear, and we call that the vanishing point. At a point, I could just sort of stop. Now, everywhere that we have a sidewalk crack, we need to make the sidewalk crack on the side. This is in the shaded area. But to make it look three-dimensional, it needs to be vertical. So, and I'm going to make this really dark so that you can see it in the shaded area. And I'm making these little teeny tiny vertical lines that matches every horizontal line that I made. So these are little details, but these little details will pay off because it's going to look really cool. So that's one side. Now I need to go and do the other side. So what we do on the right, we also do on the left. But make sure these are vertical. If they're not vertical, they're going to look like more like ramps instead of sidewalk curbs. Now another little cool thing is, if this is the road, and I can always go back and color that in, shade it in, but let's make the dotted line that goes in the middle of the road, it's also going to disappear and vanish at the vanishing point. So I'm going to put that there, and I'm going to do little bitty teeny tiny dots that come from that with little tiny spaces. But the closer we get to the bottom of the paper, the bigger the dots get. They become dashes. And that sort of gives you the illusion that you go down. Now, I know this is a long, tedious little project, but you know, if you go slow, follow the steps, I think you'll really, really enjoy it. But what I'd like to do next, these really don't look like buildings yet. We got the road going, we got the sidewalks going, but I would love to show you how to do a window here, a window, and a door. Now, this is my skinny building, but I think I can actually make that work. So the top of the windows and the top of the door, they're all going to come from that vanishing point. If I don't line them up, your whole drawing is going to look a little bit off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my pencil on the vanishing point. Now this is going to be tricky because the angle that I'm drawing at, I'm having a difficult time seeing over my ruler. So hopefully I get this right. So I put my pencil on the dot and I've adjusted my ruler. So I think this is a good height. I'm not at the very top and I'm not too low. So I'm going to draw a diagonal line in between the two vertical lines. I could draw all the way across, but then I've got to turn around and go back and erase. And here I'm going to draw a diagonal. I'm going to skip and draw another diagonal. Now I'm not measuring anything, so I might have to go back and erase stuff. Okay? Now, this is a window, this is a window, and that's going to be a really skinny door. I didn't realize how small that is. I could have made that a window and a door and a window there. That actually would make more sense. So let me see if I can correct this real quick. I'm going to put my pencil on the vanishing point. I'm going to line it back up. So I'm going to continue and make this one big window. And then over here, I can erase part of it to make my window and my door. So I think I'm going to erase that little part right there. I unfortunately drew it really dark, so I don't know if I can erase it very well. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the bottom of the window. This is my window. This is going to be my new door, and this is a big window. So I don't have to draw the diagonal line under this one. So let me show you what I'm talking about. I put my pencil on the vanishing point because the bottom of the windows have to come from the vanishing point. I'm going to draw a diagonal line under that window. Skip this one because that's going to be my new door. Now, if your buildings, you have more room to put a door on this one, do that. And so you can sort of modify your drawing depending on the placement of where you put your lines. So this is the bottom of the window, top of the window, top of the door. This will be the bottom of the door. It goes all the way to the sidewalk. Bottom of the window, top of the window. Now, a common mistake is everybody connects the end of the lines together. If you do that, look, my ruler is diagonal. So you got to ignore the ends and just do vertical lines to connect them. Vertical. And I come on this side. Vertical. And there's my first window. And then I come over to my door. Vertical all the way down to the sidewalk. The other side of my door. Vertical all the way down to the sidewalk. And then my other window. And if I made the lines too long, I can always go back and erase them. See, I accidentally made those too long. I can always go back and erase those if I don't need them. And I'm going to go back and touch up because I might erase too much because that's a fat eraser. All right. Now, another little trick. I'm going to put a window inside this door. So you follow the same tricks. Everything must come from that vanishing point. So again, I'm going to make the top of the window inside the door. I'm scooting it down and drawing the bottom line for the bottom of the window. Make another diagonal. And then we make the sides vertical. So I do vertical and vertical. You got to put a doorknob I'm going to make an oval so that everybody can actually be able to get into that door. Now I'm going to put another line, another vertical on the left side. This will be the right side, this will be the left side. Right, I call that a double line or a parallel line. So I'm going to line it up. So and I'm going to do that to every left side of every window, because windows are clear and we should be able to see through, and that sort of gives it a little bit of dimension. And I'm also going to color or shade in those little lines I just made, and it also helps to create that three-dimensional look. Now this could be a pet store. You can draw pets and dogs and people inside shopping. It could be a toy store. It could be any kind of store that you want. Now, what we do on the right, we're also going to do on the left. But to save time, I'm going to develop this at the end. I really would like to show you some of the tricks. Now, if we were doing this in class, a lot of times this takes a whole hour of art class to get where we are right now. And so I always call this the bonus features. If we get this far, and I can show you guys how to put lures in the background. If these are buildings downtown, but we have a really tall building, like the Jackson House. The Jackson building downtown is one of the tallest buildings in Paducah. But closest to us here in Lone Oak would be Lourdes. And so what if I said I'm going to put Lourdes right behind these two buildings? So the top of Lourdes is going to come from the vanishing point. And I'm going to do this really tall and weird diagonal line. Look how weird that looks. Now I'm not going to go from top of the paper to my vanishing point. I'm just going to make a diagonal line. And this is going to be the width of Lourdes. Now it looks a little strange. So what I got to do is I got to draw the sides. So the sides are all vertical lines. So again, I'm going to sort of do vertical and make sure I'm lined up correctly. And I'm going to stop when I touch that building. And then I'm going to do another vertical line on this side. And so I line it up. Make that straight. And then I'm going to come down. Now when I do this part, it actually looks like a flat billboard, or it looks like a sign on top of the other building I drew. And so what I need to do is see how we shaded the sides of the buildings. Well, this will be the side of Lourdes. So I'm going to come across the top. Make sure I'm horizontal. A little crooked there. And, oops, I think I need to scoot up a little bit. I'm going to make it horizontal, but I'm not going to go all the way to the edge. I can sort of stop about half, sort of close. And then I'm going to need to make the back of the building. We never see the back of these buildings because another building is in front. Or we run out of room and it runs off the page. But this building is different. It's taller, so we will actually see the back of the building. So I'm going to cut that. Now we use our value and our pencil to give shade or shadow to the sides of the buildings. This will be no different. So I'm going to shade this in. And another little cool secret is I'm going to press down a little harder so that this is a darker value than this. So if this is darker than that, that's what we mean by value. And it's going to make this look like it's further back in space. And that's sort of another perspective trick. Perspective is when you're trying to draw something that flat, like we're drawing, this is all flat, but we're trying to make it look three-dimensional, and usually it goes back to 1 or 2 points. So you can draw 1 point perspective, 2 point perspective, and so forth. So I'm going to shade that in. Now, people inside Lourdes who don't feel very well and trying to get better, they'd love to look out a window. So instead of drawing windows like this, I'm just going to show you a different way to make windows. So it won't look exactly like Lourdes because we're sort of making this up as we go. And what I'm trying to do is figure out where I want the top of the window. So I'm going to line up these 2 dots. The top of the windows have to come from that vanishing point. Again, I'm making these dotted lines. It's a dash. But notice how it's small, medium, and larger. Because the closer you get to the vanishing point, the smaller they actually get. The sides of the windows are just like the sides of all the other windows. It's vertical, so I'm going to go straight up, straight down. I'm going to do a double line on the left. It's my parallel lines. Makes it look like gives it a third dimension. Gives it a three-dimensional look. I shade, ooh, that was so skinny, I can just barely see it. So I shade that in. And there we go. If I wanted to put bricks, if I wanted to put wooden siding on these buildings, guess where all of the lines are going to come from for my bricks? So if I start up here at the top, they all come from the vanishing point. So if I scoot down, and I'm just drawing these. In real life, if we were standing in front of this building, we would actually call these horizontal lines. But since we're in perspective, we're looking at this at an angle, they look diagonal, like diagonal lines in our drawing. Now, in class, we very rarely ever get to the step where we talk about the texture of the buildings. So this is a bonus of a bonus. And so since you're watching this, if you've gotten tired or bored, I want you to have fun. It's okay if your picture doesn't look like my picture, because this is a sort of a tricky skill to learn. But I really wish I had an art teacher growing up, and a teacher would have taught me this, because sorry about that, everyone. I had a computer glitch, and so I think I got it fixed by now. And so the only thing that we might have fast forward was I kept drawing some of the lines in our building for like siding and so forth. So to make it look like brick, I'm going to do vertical lines, and I'm going to skip every other brick. Now I don't want to do all of this to save some time. So I'm just sort of going to skip every other brick and do a vertical line. There it goes. And so it already starting to have that brick look. Now what happens is I'm going to scoot over, and now I'm going to do the bricks that I skipped. So this one has a vertical line, so I don't do this one. I do the one that I actually skip. And that is sort of skipping everyone. Now the window is going to be in the way, so that's bricks I don't have to draw. And I keep doing that, and now I go back and do the ones I skipped this time. Now I come back and do this one again. And so, and I do this, and closer I get to that vanishing point, the closer the brick lines become. And so then I go back and we skip. It's a tricky little thing. It looks pretty cool when you get it. So it gives you an idea of sort of what the bricks may look like if you want to do that in a building. What I really would like to show you is a really super simple, and I'm just taking my ruler and I'm laying it on the horizon line, and I'm just going to trace the end of my ruler and sort of see what I'm going to do. I'm going to put another one here. It's a little taller. And I can put one a little lower. And I'm overlapping. And I created another one right there. And if you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm creating skyscrapers. So I know we don't have any skyscrapers here in Paducah, but I just thought, this is sort of fun. It's something a little cool I can do. And if this was a bigger city, and if I had all of the time in the world, I would take time and I would draw little windows in my skyscrapers way back here in the back. And it looks like we're leaving our little town to a larger city. And if you're saying, what city are you drawing? Well, I could put a landmark in it, and you might be able to guess what it is. I can't really see what I'm doing here. I'm just adding little windows. And you think about different kinds of windows you might see in a building. What if I'm just drawing stripes on the building? Just give it any kind of little texture. And if I go across, maybe it's one of those glass buildings. It's all glass on the outside. And so I'd like to come up with different textures for each of the buildings. And if I wanted to put a landmark in, where is this city? What's the name of this city? And if you recognize that, that might be an arch. And so what city has an arch in it? Could be St. Louis. And so, there's all kinds of little things. And that's our first curved line that we've drawn so far today. So everything else has been horizontal, vertical, and diagonal. And so, you can just detail this picture to death, which makes it look extra, extra cool. This could be a toy store. If I want to put this, if I want to do lettering and perspective, I could also do that too. So I'm making the top and the bottom of my letters. I'm going to always go back and erase that. But if this spells be a toy store. So, I could sell toys, and inside, you might draw some really cool toys in there. You might draw kids inside. This might be a pet store. You might draw, like I said, you can actually detail this picture all you want. But again, I'm just trying to teach you the difference between horizontal, vertical, and diagonal, and have some fun along the way. 1-point perspective, everybody. I hope you had a good time. You can color it in. You can color it with colored pencils, crayons, markers, or you could leave it just like it is. You do not have to turn this into me. You do not have to, turn everything into me. But I would love to see, if this is a project that you just really love and you really like it a lot, shoot a picture of it. Send it to me, because like I said, I'd love to see it. Have a good time, everyone. Next Friday, I'll post a new lesson, and this project was dealing with the element of line. Next week, we're going to be working with shapes, and so I'll have a new project for you next week. If I see you in class, we'll do it in class. If I don't see you in person, even if you're an A-B schedule, if it's not your art week, then we'll draw it virtually. So see you then. Everybody have a good day. Bye.